basic knowledge of East Coast currents in the mid-1700s, information that is still in use to this day. Even now, the U.S. Navy uses bottles to compile information on tides and currents, and they are frequently used to track the direction of oil spills. The most celebrated message ever sent concerned a young sailor in 1784, Chunosuke Matsuyama, who was stranded on a coral reef, devoid of food and water after his boat was shipwrecked. Before his death, he carved the account of what had happened on a piece of wood, then sealed the message in a bottle. In 1935, 150 years after it had been set afloat, it washed up in the small seaside village in Japan where Matsuyama had been born. The bottle that had been dropped on a warm summer evening, however, did not contain a message about a shipwreck, nor was it being used to chart the seas. But it did contain a message that would change two people forever. Two people who would otherwise never have met, and for this reason it could be called a fated message. For 6 days it slowly floated in a northeasterly direction, driven by winds from a high-pressure system hovering above the Gulf of Mexico. On the 7th day, the winds died, and the bottle steered itself directly eastward, eventually finding its way to the Gulf Stream, where it then picked up speed, traveling north at almost 70 miles per day. 2.5 weeks after its launch, the bottle still followed the Gulf Stream. On the 17th day, however, another storm, this time over the mid-Atlantic, brought easterly winds strong enough to drive the bottle from the current, and the bottle began to drift toward New England. Without the Gulf Stream forcing it along, the bottle slowed again, and it zigzagged in various directions near the Massachusetts shore for 5 days, until it was snagged in a fishing net by John Haynes. Haynes found the bottle surrounded by 1,000 flopping perch, and tossed it aside while he examined his catch. As luck would have it, the bottle didn't break, but it was promptly forgotten and remained near the bow of the boat for the rest of the afternoon and early evening, as the boat made its journey back to Cape Cod Bay. At 8:30 that night, and once the boat was safely inside the confines of the bay, Haynes stumbled across the bottle again while smoking a cigarette. Because the sun was dropping lower in the sky, he picked it up but saw nothing unusual inside, and he tossed it overboard without a second glance, thereby ensuring that the bottle would wash up along one of the many small communities that lined the bay. It didn't happen right away, however. The bottle drifted back and forth for a few days, as if deciding where to go before choosing its course, and it finally washed up along the shore on a beach near Chatham. And it was there, after 26 days and 738 miles, that it ended its journey. Chapter 1. A cold December wind was blowing, and Theresa Osborne crossed her arms as she stared out over the water. Earlier, when she'd arrived, there had been a few people walking along the shore, but they'd taken note of the clouds and were long since gone. Now she found herself alone on the beach, and she took in her surroundings. The ocean, reflecting the color of the sky, looked like liquid iron, and waves rolled up steadily on the shore. Heavy clouds were descending slowly, and the fog was beginning to thicken, making the horizon invisible. In another place, in another time, she would have felt the majesty of the beauty around her. But as she stood on the beach, she realized that she didn't feel anything at all. In a way, she felt as if she weren't really here, as if the whole thing were nothing but a dream. She'd driven here this morning, though she scarcely remembered the trip at all. When she'd made the decision to come, she'd planned to stay overnight. She'd made the arrangements and had even looked forward to a quiet night away from Boston. But watching the ocean swirl and churn made her realize that she didn't want to stay. She would drive home as soon as she was finished, no matter how late it was. When she was finally ready, Theresa slowly started to walk toward the water. Beneath her arm, she carried a bag that she had carefully packed that morning, making sure that she hadn't forgotten anything. She had